Welcome back. This is Good Morning Namibia. Now, Regional World Children's Day event was hosted in neighboring Botswana under the theme My Day, My Rights, From Promises to Action. The event brought together children from across Southern Africa to engage, to learn, and to advocate for their rights. Namibia was also represented by young delegates who participated in discussions on education, protection, climate change, digital safety, as well as youth empowerment. This morning we have the honor to be joined by Child Parliamentarian Prisha Mokotjomel, who attended the regional event alongside Madam Juditha Matjila, Communication, Advocacy and Partnership Specialist at UNICEF. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Denver.
Madam Matjila, have you been well? It's been a minute.
Yeah, no, it's been some time. Thank you. We are well.
Okay.
Being with Prisha here.
Yes.
We're very excited for the day.
Yeah, Prisha, are you well?
Yes, I am well, so thank you.
How was Botswana? What stood out for you?
Botswana was definitely a great experience. What stood out for me the most was definitely seeing all the cultures interact with each other and seeing how children's voices actually made a difference.
Very well. Madam Matjila, please tell us, what was the overall objective of hosting this platform, this event in neighboring Botswana?
Denver, if you remember, we started 5 years ago in Kazungula. At the time, we were only 4 countries. It was Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, where we really tried to bring the regional global celebration to focus on children's rights and use that as a platform for action for children, by children, with children. But at the time, we wanted to bring all leaders together to look at the similarities in the rights of children in those 4 countries. But fast forward, I think you remember in 2023, we had the celebration in Namibia. And this year we had a celebration in Botswana. So it was the second time that Botswana hosted the regional celebration. So the objective really is to bring our leaders together, in the regional leaders, and to have children's voices being heard. So children speak to their leaders, tell them what are the issues that are affecting their lives, and how can they, as their leaders, take action to make sure that every child's rights is realized in the region.
And no single child is left out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Prisha, it's so great to have you on board as well. You shared with us earlier that the element of diversity is what stood out for you. Speak to us about what that meant for you, both professionally as a child parliamentarian, but also personally, to represent your country on this platform.
Well, personally, I can start with, it meant a huge thing for me, especially since I am mixed with Sotho heritage and Namibian heritage. So to see both my countries there being represented was definitely significant for me. As a child parliamentarian, it was also especially important because I got to see all the different diverse cultures that I could also see in my country and see that such a mixture of people can get to be along with each other and get to exist in a space equally without any differences or hassles.
Thank you very much. Madam Matjila, so you explained to us what the objective of this event is. You also explained to us that it's been a minute, we've come a long way. Why does it remain important to advocate for children's rights? Which are the pressing issues that warrant the continuation of these efforts of ours?
Okay, since the initiative of the event, of this regional celebrations, every end of the celebration, there is what we call a call of action that children put together based on the discussions that took place during the meetings. So those call to actions are actually actions that children put forward to their leaders. These are our important and priorities that we wanted to work on. And for the past 5 years, Namibia worked on children with disabilities. And I think, Denver, what we like about the significance of this is that it came out in Kazungula, it went through the Children's Parliament, where actions were put forward and recommendations by the Children's Parliament. But it became our thematic area that we were railing and advocating for as a country to make sure that government takes this disability inclusion in schools and in every public space that we have as a priority. And I'm happy to say that based on that 5-year advocacy, We saw early in November, the Vice President launched the cost of disability in Namibia. Because we have the policies in place. In education, we have an inclusive education policy. However, we did not know how much do we need to make sure that every person with disability is catered for. And as we know, we can have policies, but if there's no costing to a policy, then it means nothing. So I'm happy to see that government is taking this very seriously. And that is because of the advocacy that we did. Now, come this year, a new issue and a thematic area emerged from Namibia itself, and that is the issue of boys' education. So what happened when we went there, the 10 children that we went with had to write letters to the president. And a cutting thread across them in their letters was that they're worried about the boy child in the country.
And rightfully so, rightfully so. Prisha, are you worried about the well-being of the boy child?
Of course.
Why are you worried?
I'm worried because we see stats of 3 out of 10 boys failing in schools and dropping out, which is quite worrisome if you look at it. We also see that the outcomes that happen from these boys dropping out affect us right now in the present with the rise in violence against our children. So it is definitely worrisome to see how this system hasn't been uplifting and helping our boys and future men.
I'm happy you're drawing the correlation between that reality of us neglecting the boy child and the surge in gender-based violence that we are also witnessing. But let's take one step back, please. Speak to us of the theme of this year's engagement.
The theme of this year's engagement is definitely Our Day, Our Rights, which talks to how we are looked at and how we look into our everyday livelihood and how that affects us as children, especially in our educational spaces, as seen earlier, presented about the boys and their way of being left out in education especially. So we came forward and we advocated for these boys, and we spoke about how that challenges will affect them in the future and us as a society.
Now, against the backdrop of the theme and its relevance for this year's platform, speak to us about some of the key issues that did emerge, some of the key conversations that stood out for you.
Well, the key issues that definitely stood out to me was how, amongst the region of different countries, there is a struggle on how kids are dealing with climate change, especially with the journeys to school and from school. I also saw how we talked about the boy child, especially amongst the other regions, that we all share the struggle of how they are definitely being left out in society, and that how uplifting them doesn't exactly mean that we're diminishing the efforts that we put forward for the girl child as well.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Yes,
Two things can beautifully coexist. Yeah, I see you concurring, Madam Matjila.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So of course that is an important issue that emerged and that gave rise to the next thematic area. But which are the other issues from your observation that are equally important that also emerged?
Like Prisha said, the education was high on the agenda. I think every country mentioned it. This time around, we are about 8 countries that came there. So every child from the country raised the issue of education. ICT was the main issue as well. We know we don't have libraries anymore. I think over 90% of our schools in this country don't have libraries, and it's the same in other countries as well.
The libraries are in the palm of our hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if digital knowledge is important, why don't we make it sure that it becomes a right, that every child in Namibia has access to that information in the palm of their hands? I was so fascinated in Botswana that we went for games, sports, and this was held at a school. And we were told, no, you can click on, get Wi-Fi from this school. So we were told that every school in Botswana has a free Wi-Fi. And I mean, I even thought that one can make a movie out of that, because at night you see communities gather around a school with their cell phones because they don't have Wi-Fi at home, but the school is like a meeting point where everybody, you know, looks on their cell phone. So if we want our children to have access to information and to be connected to the world and know and have do their research for their schools, then we need to make sure that the digital divide is addressed in the country. The second thing that came out that stood out for me is the issue of aligning our policies with the Convention on the Rights of the Child.
So greater harmonization, in other words.
Yes, one child from Botswana raised a very pertinent issue, that why is that the Convention of the Rights of the Child says a child is a child until the age of 18. However, the sexual, what do you call it, children are allowed to have sex, or the age of sexual consent is 16. And again, you are still a child, you can have sex at 16, but you cannot vote until you are 18 years old. So I think that rang a bell to a lot of us in Parliament at the time, where we have to look at how best can we harmonize our policies and our laws, because it's confusing for children.
Absolutely.
We are saying you can have sex at 16, but you cannot vote.
Your vote doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. And sex is not without consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ladies, I wish we had the entire day to unpack these matters, but we don't. Perhaps your final thoughts, Prisha.
My final thoughts is that I'm definitely glad that we've been given a platform to voice and advocate for fellow children, and that our voices and concerns are being heard by the adults in the room.
Your final thoughts, please, ma'am.
I think every day should be a World Children's Day in Namibia, where children's rights are looked at, where we give priorities to issues that are affecting our children. Let's listen to our children, let's take action. And I think this year, what we saw in Botswana is children are demanding that we as adults take action.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing those precious insights. Thank you for the great work that you continue to do.
Thank you, Della, for having us.